In the world of blockbuster filmmaking, there's one word which has been popping up more and more over the last decade. Audiences and filmmakers alike can't seem to get enough of IMAX. Its high image quality and larger aspect ratio makes for an amazing experience. Just to brag for a second, I'm lucky enough to live in a city that has the second largest IMAX screen in the world. Recently I watched Project Hail Mary there, and let me tell you, it was absolutely gorgeous. Christopher Nolan has been a pioneer of the format, however all big studios have been taking note. The majority of superhero films are now shot at least partially in IMAX, and even auteur filmmakers are dipping their toes in. Sinners won an Academy Award this year for Best Cinematography, which was shot on both standard and IMAX 70mm cameras. There is a downside, however. What if you don't live near an IMAX theatre? I've seen many frustrated comments online, and who can blame them? When you see screenshots like this one, it feels like you're missing out on half the image by going to a regular theatre. Well, I'm here to tell you that it actually doesn't matter. Most people don't live near an IMAX theatre, and if they do, it might not support the full aspect ratio anyways. Given it's so expensive to shoot, why do filmmakers even bother in the first place? Firstly, we need to understand the difference between a regular theatre and an IMAX one. Before we can even begin discussing its merits, I need to clarify some terminology. The word IMAX is used in so many contexts that it can get confusing. There's different cameras, different theaters, and different aspect ratios, so let's go through them. The IMAX Corporation is a company that makes special types of cameras. To see what's so different about them, let's compare film stocks. 35mm is the industry standard. The majority of non-digital movies are shot with this. You then have 70mm, which is used for large-scale productions. It has higher resolution and often a wider aspect ratio, which is perfect for epics. Think your Lawrence of Arabia's or Ben-Hur's. In a big theatre where the screen stretches out to the edge, such a format captures the full extent of the sprawling landscapes and huge set pieces. 70mm is also 5 perf, meaning it has 5 sprockets on each side. When the film travels through the camera, it does so vertically. Now let's finally take a look at IMAX. Notice how large it is compared to the standard 70mm stock, stretching upwards. The two are actually quite similar, so why is the IMAX version so much bigger? Because it essentially takes your standard 70mm film stock, rotates it sideways, then copies it 3 times across. Instead of 5 perf, IMAX is 15 perf. The sprockets are also on the top and bottom instead of on the sides, meaning the film travels through the camera horizontally. In short, IMAX film stock has higher resolution and the final image is much taller. Of course, digital IMAX cameras exist too, and record footage in the same aspect ratio. Okay, so what does this mean for your viewing experience? A regular theatre looks like this. For widescreen 70mm epics, it might look like this. When sitting in the middle, it feels a lot more immersive as the action takes place across your peripheral vision. An IMAX theatre, however, it stretches up to the ceiling like this. The screens are often so massive that it's impossible to see the entire image at once. This is why filmmakers use the format despite how much more expensive it is. For immersion. This is also why the aspect ratio changes so frequently. Rather than shoot a film entirely with IMAX cameras, which is extremely expensive, this is reserved for the big, impactful moments. Take Sinners again, for example. Most of the film was shot in Ultra Panavision 70mm with a 2.76:1 aspect ratio. For greater immersion though, certain scenes were shot with IMAX cameras, expanding up to the full 1.43:1 aspect ratio. Again, 2 caveats to raise. Firstly, this 1.43:1 ratio can only be seen in certain IMAX theaters. Modern TVs are only 1.78:1, meaning when you watch Sinners at home, some of the top and bottom will be cropped. Secondly, some theaters that advertise themselves as IMAX still don't have this full aspect ratio. Sure, they'll go up to 1.78:1, which might be more than a regular theater, but it won't be tall enough to accommodate the entire image. The internet has dubbed these LIMAX, so always double check online to see whether you're getting scammed. I think I've made it clear by now the difference between a regular theater and a proper IMAX one. Shifting aspect ratios aren't new, but when you watch a film and find out that you're missing the full image, That hurts. This shot from Dune is especially egregious, where only the IMAX crowd gets to see how the spaceship is shaped like a bull. If you were to watch this in a regular theater, that symbolism would be missing entirely. Fear not if you don't live near an IMAX screen, however. I'm still of the opinion that the format gets more praise than it deserves. Firstly, not every scene is shot with the full 1.43:1 aspect ratio. IMAX cameras are notoriously difficult and expensive to use. The 70mm ones are especially annoying, as they make loud noises that can muffle the actor's dialogue. This means they're usually reserved for the big, high-octane moments. On average, you'll get between 30 and 60 minutes of footage in the taller aspect ratio, less than half the film. In fact, most of this extra space isn't even important anyways. Take the earlier example I gave of Dune. While this shot might take advantage of the full 1.43:1 framing, it still works just fine without it. Yes, the bull symbolism is great, but what's actually most important here? Not the spaceship's shape, but Paul's visions of the Fremen fighting on his behalf. The 2.39:1 aspect ratio still manages to keep this information, even if some is lost without the taller screen. In fact, this is the case for every shot. At the end of the day, Denis Villeneuve does not want the audience to get lost. If there's a crucial piece of information that needs to be shown, it will not be a premium feature exclusive to certain cinemas. Again, not every city or country has IMAX theaters, meaning it makes absolutely no sense to shoot scenes that can only be seen in them. This leads to a bit of a contradiction though. If the top and bottom of your 1.43:1 frames consist mostly of empty space, what's the point of IMAX in the first place? Let's talk blocking. For most productions, every scene is shot with the exact same camera and the exact same aspect ratio. Occasionally you might mix these up as a stylistic choice, but the important thing to note is what you see is what you get. When directors, set designers, and cinematographers choose how to block a scene, they know the final shot will be shown in the exact same way in all theaters. Unfortunately for IMAX, this isn't the case. You might think filmmakers have a lot more space when shooting with the full 1.43:1 aspect ratio, but they're actually quite restricted in what they can do. Remember, not all theaters can support this height, meaning it will be cropped when shown to most people. Suddenly, you're forced to cater to at least 2, sometimes 3 different aspect ratios for the exact same shot. To get around this, filmmakers will opt for center framing, where the most crucial details are kept in the middle. This is super restrictive, however, and means less options for interesting blocking in your shots. I also suspect this is why much of the Odyssey's cinematography looks bland from the trailers. As the film is shot entirely with 70mm IMAX cameras, Nolan is heavily limited in what he can do when catering to different formats. Obviously, we will have to wait and see whether this works or not. You might think I have a vendetta against IMAX with the way I've been talking about it so far, but that's not true. I didn't make this video to slander a format people enjoy. In fact, when used correctly, IMAX makes for some of the best blockbuster cinema experiences on the planet. If there's one thing that annoys me the most, it's actually the marketing. The promotional material for these films will claim that the expanded format reveals more of the image, which is technically true, but more image doesn't always mean a better experience. The extra information isn't the point. I cannot emphasize enough how gigantic these theaters are. When the image expands to 1.43:1, it is physically impossible to look at the entire screen at once. It covers your entire peripheral vision, meaning this taller aspect ratio isn't for capturing more information, as the marketing repeatedly claims. The extra space is entirely for immersion. IMAX thrives when it's used for grand, sweeping, large-scale shots. Films like Interstellar and Dune do this best, whereas it's nowhere near as impactful for a film like Oppenheimer. The Trinity test is an obvious exception, but the majority of this movie is characters talking in rooms, meaning a full 1.43:1 shot of each actor's head feels a little weird. This is also why I worry about the Odyssey, because the entire film uses this ratio for IMAX theaters. I'm sure the landscapes and oceans will look beautiful, but intimate conversations might feel a bit weird with the exact same framing. As the old saying goes, less is more. Right now, I'm of the opinion that IMAX is at its best when used sparingly. In Interstellar, when we cut from a close-up of Matthew McConaughey to the gigantic expanse of space, It's awe-inspiring. Had this close-up instead also been framed with the 1.43:1 ratio, it would be nowhere near as impactful. I'm sure filmmakers will find new and creative ways to play with the format, but outside of highlighting the vast scale of a scene, it proves to be a bit of a gimmick. So, are you really missing out by not seeing certain films in IMAX? Yes and no. Some use the format to create a super immersive experience, whereas others don't do anything with it. However, please don't feel as if you're missing out if an IMAX theater doesn't exist near you. While I think we could all benefit from more of them, it's not an absolute necessity. An extra 20% of the image doesn't matter anywhere near as much as the experience of watching the film itself. I made this point in my video on the restoration of Eyes Wide Shut, but every movie has different formats depending on where and how you watch it. Immersing yourself in the world that a team of hundreds created is what matters most, not the aspect ratio. If you made it this far, please be sure to leave me a like and subscribe for more videos like this one.